This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and the Becker Business Podcast. We're thrilled today to feature a leader as the Technology Leader of the Month. We're joined today by Scott Bauer. Scott's the Chief Executive Officer of Mosaic Processing, and he's going to talk about what they do sort of in what I would call the financial technology space, the credit card space, and more. Scott, so glad to have you with us. Can you take a moment and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and about what Mosaic Processing does?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Scott. It's really a pleasure to be here. I've been in the financial world professionally since out of college, 35 years, mostly as an active trading professional down on the trading floors in Chicago. My background is really in the markets, and as we know, change of landscape in the markets over the last 15 or so years, where everything has pretty much gone electronic. Although there is still live trade in Chicago, and I am down on the trading floor almost every day. But because of that shift over to the electronic world, many people like myself have kind of diversified, and so one of the things that I am doing is in the finance space, but it is in the chargeback space using credit and debit cards processing. So Mosaic Processing is a company that we started that's dedicated to providing the best products to reduce the cost of using credit and debit cards. And that is both on the consumer side and the merchant side.
And so talk about how you do this. Do you work with the other big credit cards? Is it your own credit cards, or is it just the back office end of it? Explain to us more about what Mosaic does and what makes its approach distinctive.
Sure. So we really want to reach out to high risk merchants. High risk merchants meaning mainly e-commerce sites that are in the e-gaming or e-sports betting, nutraceuticals, merchants that have a high risk of refunds. And that doesn't mean that business is not a profitable business or a bad business. It's just that that's the nature of their business. And what happens is companies with a high level of refunds, and typically when you get to about 1 to 1.25% of transactions that are refunded, a merchant starts to get hit with just an exorbitant amount of fees from Visa. And eventually, and this is happening now because of a rule that Visa just put out there called VAMP, eventually many of these merchants are likely to go out of business or not accept credit cards at all. So we have a product called Quick Refund, which is a seamless integration into any merchant's processing system. It's on the back end. Consumer doesn't see it. It's not consumer facing. The merchant doesn't even see it. It's literally a 2-minute install that if a consumer comes back and wants to make a refund, the refund happens seamlessly without ever getting to Visa. So that level of being in the penalty box of the 1 to 1.25% transactions that are refunds basically disappears. So not only does a merchant not only have to worry about getting in the penalty box, the fee that they pay for a refund, which can be upwards of literally, and this is ridiculous, upwards of $30 to $60 per transaction, even if it's a $2 transaction. That is what the costs can be for a merchant to process a refund. They pay a flat $10 fee with us. So on the merchant side, twofold. They're getting out of the penalty box and they're saving 60-70% on the refund transaction. On the consumer side, Scott, you know that if you go return something to wherever it is, you're going to get a notification that says, okay, your refund's been processed. It'll show up in your account in 3 to 5 business days, whatever it might be. This is an instantaneous transaction. So for the consumer, that refund shows up in your account instantaneously.
So that's fantastic. And talk for a second. We've sort of got a challenging economy at different levels. And it's a very complicated economy because those who own lots of assets are doing fine, but then 40% don't. They're really struggling. When the economy struggles, do we end up in a spot where there's more returns, and particularly for people that have high return volumes, do those get more and more in a tougher economy? Any thoughts there?
Oh, there's no question about it. And you hit the nail on the head. We are in what's called, kind of this K-shaped economy. K-shaped meaning that the upper level demographic, let's call it, they're doing fine, as you said. So, kind of that tail on the K going up, that's the upper end. The bottom end, unfortunately, of the consumer is not doing well. So when we get into a period like this, and you can, go through economic cycles basically for the last 50 years, you do see a higher level of refunds because a consumer, may buy something and then they kind of look at their account, they look at their credit card statement and say, I really don't need this. So there's no question about it. And in this world of e-commerce, especially where transactions done online are setting records daily, and there is so much impulse buying, right? Whether it's through Amazon, whether it's through an e-gaming site. One of our kids is playing a game online and they buy some more swords or they buy, whatever it is, and then a parent looks at that and says, "Oh, no, 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 we've got to refund that." Those refunds definitely tick up. So this is extremely beneficial, especially in this economy.
No, that's fantastic. And what's the reception you're getting from customers? How excited are they about this? And I think most of us, if you're not a merchant, don't realize how bad those return fees are. Talk about that. How aware are your merchants of the return fees? I take it they're quite aware. So if you have a business with lots of return fees, that must be just devastating, particularly if you're not selling big items. If you're selling a $2,000 item, $6 might be fine. But if you're selling a $200 item, that's brutal.
Well, it's interesting you ask because the average ticket item for the processing, the refunding we're doing is $17. So you can imagine if someone is returning something $17 and it costs the merchant anywhere between $30 and $60 to actually process that refund, those fees obviously are getting passed through to the consumer, either passed through in, you may see a sign which is so prevalent now where a merchant says, if you charge this, we're gonna hit you with 3%, 4% upcharge, or the charge on just the item you're buying could be more expensive. So the merchant is absolutely loving this. What it also does for the merchant is, in many cases, merchants literally have to have a team of people just to deal with processing these refunds. And I'm not saying that this eliminates that team, but the data that the transaction can provide to the merchant in terms of time of day, what day of the week it is, what type of product it was, that type of data that the merchant can get instantaneously absolutely helps them make decisions as to, well, maybe we don't want to offer this product here, maybe we have to change things around. So for the merchant side of things, they are seeing just incredible benefits. The bottom line is, though, their fee is cut by 60-70%.
Thank you. Take a moment. You've been excelling. You've got a great leadership team, really brilliant leaders with you. You've grown in a competitive environment. What are some of the keys to growth in a challenging environment that help you stand out in what you're doing as well?
Absolutely, and it absolutely is a competitive environment. So I think that especially when we started this, everybody wants to just race to the finish line. And one of the things that we have learned, in our successful businesses is it's that old adage of walk before you run. And sure, you want to grasp everything that is out in front of you, and more often than not, when you bite off more than you can chew, it comes back to really haunt you. So we have been very deliberate in our process, building up the business one product at a time, even though, this is such a competitive landscape, and just really focusing on perfecting one product, making sure that all of the benefits out there, at least in this space, for both the merchant and consumer are 100% understood, 100% real, which they are, and then branching out. So our relationships with our clients, with both our merchants and then with other ISOs being independent sales organizations, are really all built on that model. And sure, some people, some of our ISOs, some of our vendors want to just run with everything at first, and that's just a recipe for disaster.
As a leader, you do an incredible job personally of staying centered, staying focused, keeping yourself on top of things. You've led great teams, you've built businesses. You talk about at the board, you've talked about in life, you've navigated a lot of change and done it extraordinarily well. Are there daily habits or personal principles that you use to help keep you focused and learning and centered in such a fast moving world?
Yes, absolutely. And first off, and I think this goes really for any business, Scott, is you can't be afraid of making a mistake. And what I mean by that is if you don't investigate, if you don't continuously learn, if you don't try things, you're never really going to reach that next level. On top of that, you can't be afraid to admit a mistake, whether it's to your team, whether it's to a merchant, a client. That is the biggest hurdle that I have seen in other leaders, other businesses, is when a mistake is made. And we know, regardless of the business out there, mistakes are made, is owning up to it and taking care of it and making sure that your customer is righted, right? And always has a good taste in their mouth, if you will. And so that's the way that we run our businesses. That's the way we run our staff, our team. Everybody is on the same level. Just because I'm CEO doesn't really mean that I, am any different than anybody else in the business. And it's all a matter of transparency and just owning up and, quite frankly, living up to expectations, never setting false expectations, never, over promising and under delivering. That can derail a business immediately.
We love that take. It's always better to under promise and over deliver. It's exactly what you said. It's leaving that right taste in the customer's mouth is so important. Scott, we've got you hosted as our technology leader of the month today. It makes me so happy. I can't even tell you. Anything else you'd like to share with the audience today about Mosaic processing and what you're doing?
I think that the bottom line is our company is built on trust. The background that myself, my partner Mike Frazen has, people can find us out there. They can find us on the internet. They can find reviews about us. And I think the one constant is trust and communication. Again, regardless of the business that we are in, those are really the two biggest values. So a big part of our success over time in our many businesses is that, and it's communication. So anybody that we will work with can feel confident from the first second that they will always get the utmost transparency, the utmost truth. And it's easy for me to say that, right? Most businesses want to hang their hats on that. But I think when people want to look up Scott Bauer, Mike Frazen, Mosaic Processing, that's what's going to stand out in front of them.
And I'll just add to that very quickly. Mike, you could love Mike or hate Mike, but as good a person as they come, the highest integrity that there is out there, very clear thinking, very bright, very gifted. And quite frankly, I say you could love or hate Mike, but if you hate him, there's probably something wrong with you because he's a very gifted, very high integrity leader and person and thinker. The people that I know that have had long-term business relationships with Mike rave about what a person he is. So when you speak about integrity and taking care of customers, it's so true of the both of you and your team. Scott, I want to thank you for joining us today on the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. always a great pleasure to visit with you. Thank you very, very much.
Scott, really appreciate the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.